Hey folks, Roland Martin here. Roland Martin Unfiltered, broadcasting live from New York City. Today is Tuesday, February 19th, 2019. Coming up, Jussie Smollett. What the hell happened in Chicago? Was it a racist, homophobic attack? Or did he set all of this in motion? All kinds of conflicting informations. We'll have the latest for you, the latest factual information for you. Also, Colin Kaepernick has settled, him and Eric Reed have settled their collusion lawsuit against the NFL. We'll talk with the great sports writer Bill Roland about what this means, and will Colin Kaepernick get signed to an NFL team? Senator Bernie Sanders, he says he is running for president of the United States. Can he get the black vote? We'll break it down with our panel. Also, remember the crazy white man in Miami who pulled the gun on the teens who were protesting housing? Additional charges filed against him. We'll explain. And speaking of crazy white men, what the hell is up with this newspaper editor in Alabama saying the Klan should come to D.C. to drain the swamp? Yes, absolutely nuts. And black women, hair regulations established in New York City. I will have those details for you. Folks, we got a jam-packed show. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
All right, folks, it was a crazy, crazy weekend when it came to the issue of the Jussie Smollett case. Remember, Smollett said he was initially attacked by two men shouting MAGA, poured chlorine on him, placed a noose around his neck. He gave interviews saying he fought back. Then, on Friday, police arrested two Nigerian men who worked on the show Empire. One of them apparently was a trainer for Jussie Smollett. They were arrested. Then on Saturday, they were released. Then police said they found additional information that changed the trajectory of the case. All weekend, since this weekend, Monday, and today, all this information back and forth that it was a hoax, and it wasn't a hoax. Jussie Smollett has hired the same criminal defense attorney who represents Michael Cohen. He now is not talking to the police. He is communicating with the police through his attorney. Bottom line is this here. We don't know what happened. All these people who are now saying it was a hoax, the Chicago Police Department has not actually said any of that. We've seen some reports also say that the grand jury has been impaneled. They're looking into this. Has Kim Foxx's office, the Cook County State's attorney, has her office confirmed that? No. Has Chicago Police Department confirmed that? No. Bottom line is, we don't know any of this. There's lots of sourcing going back and forth. CNN, ABC News, local folks, BuzzFeed, TMZ, everyone is saying sources say this, sources say that. Now, I made this point on the Tom Joyner Morning Show on yesterday, and that is, folks, we can be patient. Anybody who has watched this show know what we've done is presented the facts as we know them. We have not come out and just gone buck wild crazy. What we've done is presented the facts as we know them. And as we know them right now is, it has not been confirmed by anybody in Chicago police publicly that Jussie Smollett was actually the mastermind of this attack. You also have reporting going on right now from Deadline.com that his role on Empire has been reduced. He is not going to be in the next 4 episodes as a result of this investigation. So again, what we're doing is we are continuing watching this. This is what the attorneys for Jussie Smollett said, quote, As a victim of a hate crime who has cooperated with the police investigation, Jussie Smollett is angered and devastated by recent reports that the perpetrators are individuals he's familiar with. He has now been further victimized by claims attributed to these alleged perpetrators that Jussie played a role in his own attack. Nothing is further from the truth, and anyone claiming otherwise is lying. The police do want to speak to Smollett again. No date has been set when they will sit down. That's what we know as of now. We are not going to engage in speculation, making assumptions. But let me say this, and this is critically important. If all these people who on the right were like, oh, the liberal media ran with this story. No. What the media did was we reported the story based upon the allegation of Jussie Smollett. All the people who are saying today, oh, I knew from the beginning this wasn't true, it smelled fishy. No one knew that as a fact. Our job is to report what he said happened. That's all that we know. And so again, once we have official information announced by Chicago Police Department, announced by the Cook County State's Attorney, the FBI also is investigating because of the letter that was mailed to him because they investigate crimes that go through the mail system. We will let you know when they let us know. Let's go to our second story. Colin Kaepernick has settled his lawsuit that took place on Friday with the NFL. Well, he and Eric Reed sued the NFL, alleging collusion based upon them being kept out of the NFL as a result of them kneeling, protesting police brutality. Since that took place, Eric Reed has been signed, played last year with the Carolina Panthers. In this offseason, he signed a 3-year contract. Colin Kaepernick has yet to be signed by an NFL team. The question is, how much did both of them get? We don't know. Mike Freeman, NFL writer, has speculated, based upon his sources, it's anywhere from $60 to $80 million. Others say it's not as much. They've all signed a non-disclosure agreement. We don't know. His attorney, Mark Garagos, released a statement saying that there will be no commenting on exactly what this settlement was, but it still is a huge, huge deal that this settlement was made. Joining us right now is Bill Roland, longtime columnist, sports writer for the New York Times, now also writing for The Undefeated. He is the author of the book of $40 Million Slaves. Bill, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hey, Roland, how you doing, man? Always great to be with you.
Yes, sir. So just your thoughts on the NFL agreeing to settle this lawsuit with Colin Kaepernick. Folks like me say Kaepernick and his attorneys, they had the goods on the NFL. The NFL was still getting bad publicity with black celebrities refusing to participate in the Super Bowl. They want this off of their radar.
Yeah, you're right, Roland. But they want this to go away. And I also agree with you that I think the last thing the NFL wanted was, forget what the collusion case. They didn't want this sensitive internal documents that may have not had anything to do with that. They didn't want that stuff up in public domain because no telling what that disclosure was going to find. So you're right. They want this stuff to go away, and they wanted Cap to go away. Now, the big question, I don't know how you feel about this, I have a sense that maybe part of the thing is some team might reach out to him. I guess the question at that place becomes, does he take it? Does he take the bait and play, or does he hold a press conference and say, listen, I've had my run. I've got CTE concerns. And there was a time when I played football. I was really good at it, but now I'm moving on. And so you don't.
Well, according to his attorney, according to Mark Garagos, Bill.
Unlike Ali, who came back and was, Ali's legacy really grew when he came back.
But remember,
I don't know if that's going to be the case with Kaepernick, because it's a team sport. So I guess the question becomes, if they do offer him a tryout, does he take it? But I think at this point, he won. He started a movement. There's nothing they could do to take away his legacy. The question is, does he play? And I guess if I were kind of him, I don't know. I know he loves to play the game. He probably wants to play. He could use that great NFL platform to further his causes. I get that, but I also think it would be noble to say, you know what, I'm I've got more stuff to do, and I'm moving on.
Well, I'll tell you, Bill, his attorney, Mark Garagos, has said he wants to play. Over the last couple of years, I've communicated with Colin Kaepernick. We've talked in person. We've also texted back and forth. I know that he does want to play. Remember when he had his deposition in Houston in front of the late Texans owner Bob McNair, where he wore the shirt Kunta Kinte. The day before, they dropped the video of him working out at a stadium there in Houston. He and I communicated on that particular day as well. The only thing, we've texted since this settlement has also been announced. And I do believe that Colin Kaepernick wants to play. And here's the other piece. The NFL, although they have done this settlement, yes, although they have done this settlement, they're still not off the hook from the public. Because remember, a lot of the protests from people like me who chose not to watch NFL games, who chose not to wear Houston Texans gear, was because they were denying Kaepernick an opportunity. I think the settlement was one part. The other part is, will an NFL team offer him a chance to come into camp and compete? The NFL has to still get over that hurdle, Bill.
Right, exactly. And again, the question is, if they do come, and depending on who comes, does he take it? Because as you know, Roland, every job ain't a good job.
True.
Unless he's looking at this as a much larger thing that, the NFL is a tremendous platform. And, if he's with an NFL team, that's a great vehicle to mobilize not only football players, but continue to mobilize all athletes. Because, you talk about Bernie Sanders. We've got, I think the one person who POTUS 45 fears is a guy like Kaepernick, who's outside his reach. And this person can mobilize a type of opposition that could be very, very influential and very, very damaging. So I think there's a lot of stuff in play. I mean, I'm really fascinated to see what's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 months.
All right, then. Bill Roland, I appreciate it, man. Always love your work. Thank you very much for joining us.
All right. Take care, Roland.
All right, let's bring in my panel right now. Joining us, of course, there in Washington, D.C. I'm in New York. Julian Malveaux, economist, president emerita, Bennett College. Malik Abdul, Republican communications consultant. And Dr. Cleo Monago, social political analyst and activist. I'll start with you, Cleo. It's been very interesting looking at social media and some of these people trying to call Colin Kaepernick a sellout. First of all, let's understand. Colin Kaepernick never said, I'm not going to settle, I'm filing this lawsuit, and we're going to publicly release all documents. First of all, Cleo, when somebody files a lawsuit, a settlement is a real possibility. This is no different to me than when a black family, their son or daughter is killed by cops, and they reach a financial settlement with the city or the county or the state. I mean, and so I think it's idiotic for these people to call Colin Kaepernick a sellout because he settled. None of us didn't have a career. He was suing, spending his own money. And so if he felt that the settlement was a fair offer, I think it's nuts to call him a sellout.
Well, Roland, you know that some of these people don't have a life and they do nothing but find new opportunities to call people a sellout, usually behind some kind of anonymous we don't even know who the half of them are who doing these accusations. They just need a life because it's insane to call Kaepernick a sellout. The man sacrificed a career that he loved and was good at and built to stand up for black folks. How are you going to call somebody like that a sellout? So that's ridiculous. But my question is to black folks watching, is the NFL worth our investment and our time? Because it's clearly a racist institution. I want to reiterate that the reason we're talking about Colin Kaepernick is because he couldn't get hired because he stepped up for black folks and was whiteballed as a result of that. So my question is to the community, is football worth it now that we know clearly without any question that it's a white supremacist, racist institution that has no respect for black men? And I like Roland's title of his book. It was like $40 billion slave. That's an appropriate title for his book.
Bill Roland
Here's the deal, Julie. Here's the piece, Julianne. Here's the piece. The NFL is the most popular and profitable sports league in America. More than the NBA, more than Major League Baseball, more than soccer. You just look at the AAF, this All-American Football, this new minor league development league. And when they actually debuted on CBS, their ratings were higher than the NBA game.
Wow.
So America has this love affair and fascination with football. And there were a lot of black people who said, I don't give a damn about Kaepernick. I'm not going to stop watching. I'm not going to stop wearing my gear.
Same.
That's the hold that football has on people in this country.
Well, you know, the hypocrisy, Roland, we're here in Washington, D.C., where the football team, the Washington, D.C. football team, is named after dead Indians. And black people who would not watch a team that was called the N-word still gleefully put on those dead skin, I call them the dead skins, put on those dead skins paraphernalia and deal with that. Bill Roland is basically a genius when it comes to looking at this, because he's really talking about, and Harry Edwards is another who studied sports, and this is gladiator city. This is what used to happen to us back in enslavement, when they put big brothers up against each other and watched them basically decimate each other. I hope that Colin Kaepernick takes his money, enjoys his money. I know he loves the game, but quite frankly, we're now learning more and more about head injuries, concussions, early onset Alzheimer's, all this stuff that's a function of the number of concussions that people have in football. He has done us a tremendous service. And Cleo, I mean, I crack up when I read the stuff that these, people who, as you say, have no lives, nothing to do, and so they're talking about he's a sellout. Well, anytime you go to court, here's the deal. You can win and you can lose. Collusion is almost impossible to prove. But the fact is that he was going to shine some light on the dirt in the NFL, and that's why they settled. This is a predatory capitalist organization that is in bed with the so-called patriots, has had contracts, money from the Department of Defense. We pay, the United States, our taxpayer dollars pay to play that Star-Spangled Banner and all that nonsense. And it only started really after September 11th of 2001. And so let's just be clear about that. Be clear about the way that predatory capitalism is extracting surplus value from our communities, and the ways that Colin Kaepernick, bless him, stood up for us. And anyone who says he's a sellout doesn't understand economics, they don't understand the law, and quite frankly, they don't have any integrity.
Malik, what I said to Bill was that the suit was one thing. Them whiteballing Kaepernick is another. It is undeniable that NFL teams have signed quarterbacks who are atrocious, who do not have the record or the stats of Colin Kaepernick. I still contend that the real question now is whether or not an NFL team is going to have the courage to sign Colin Kaepernick. If you have a man in Carolina, Cam Newton, with his injured shoulder, he could be out the entire year. The question is, will their owner, their new owner, sign Kaepernick? He, of course, has been highly critical of Donald Trump. Look, will the Patriots do it? They're best buddies with Donald Trump. And the Trump factor, Malik, is still there. The NFL teams are scared of him tweeting, trashing them. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, they may be I don't know. They may be afraid of that, but the reality is, and to you said earlier, we were talking about the idea that people were calling him a sellout. NDAs are pretty standard, and I don't know if most people know that NDAs are pretty standard. In this case with Colin, it's what I would hope for him after this. I personally don't think that an NFL team will bring him on. I think at this point he's a liability. We can disagree or whether or not he is one, but I do think that he's a liability at this point, and so I can't see a football team bringing him on.
Liability to what?
And to who?
To who?
We can say that he's a liability as far as the team is concerned. Is what the things that they consider for their team. So I doubt that any team will bring him on with all of the attention that someone like Colin Kaepernick brings. There's a lot of things that we talk about. The NFL hasn't changed. The NFL is the same NFL it was before it employed Colin Kaepernick. You know, they've had problems with misogyny, homophobia. They've had problems with violence. You know, this is something that's not, you know, this is not new in the realm of of the NFL. So I think part of the problem is that what we found with this Colin situation, you know, as many people that you have calling people sellout, those same people were calling other people sellouts for not agreeing with Colin's protest. The idea of the protest, it's become a symbol of a lot of our, you know, grievances or whatever you want to call it, and I think that's part of the problem, and it leads to him being a liability really for any team.
I think, Malik, I think that's nonsense.
And that is well, it is there because what you have is you have teams who say, are we going to weather the pushback from fan base, from potential sponsors? I mean, that's there. Go ahead.
But Roland, I mean, you have to weigh it both ways. I mean, when Nike did that wonderful ad with Kaepernick, I have friends who are not even into football. They went and bought stuff at the Nike store. I mean, they got a bump, positive bump. So, you know, while you get a negative from the trolls and haterators, you might get a positive for the people who support Colin Kaepernick. Now, the numbers, you know, may even out, but I think to consider him a liability is unfortunate and, quite frankly, unfair. There are a whole lot of liabilities. Some team just, and I'm not a sports person, y'all know that, but some team, then they just sign some guy who, like, beat his girlfriend or something. Yep. And so is that not a liability? I mean, what do you prefer, protest or woman beat?
But I think,
first of all, Kareem Hunt, hold 1 second. Sure. Kareem Hunt, who got cut by the Kansas City Chiefs, was picked up by the Cleveland Browns, actually the week of the settlement. So I also wouldn't be surprised if NFL is like, oh my God, here we got a man who beat a woman, and then, man, we better settle this damn lawsuit. Go ahead, Cleo, final comment before I go to my next story.
I think we should be clear. From my perspective, liability means he might expose racism again. We won't be allowed to just be good old boys and be ourselves and do the racist things that we haven't done. We'll now have a challenge on our hands from inside of the system as opposed to outside of the system. That's considered liability from my perspective, and I think we should need to say that, because it's all right to have a domestic violator, etc., but not somebody who's going to expose that we are a racist institution with nothing but black men that we need, or else we're nothing.
All right, folks, let's go to our next story. Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, an independent, has announced he is running for president in 2020. Here is some of the video that he released.
The fight against injustice has been the work of his life.
Jobs and education, not jails and incarceration.
We are not going to retreat on women's rights.
Sanders pushing a bold agenda that includes protecting DACA recipients and comprehensive immigration reform.
You don't rip little children away from the arms of their mother.
A major announcement from Amazon. Amazon will raise its minimum wage to $15 an hour. 350,000 workers.
Thousands of workers at Disney World will get raises. It's a victory for Bernie Sanders.
It's a victory for all workers.
Wow. All right, folks. Of course, Senator Sanders ran in 2016. Lots of support there. Lost to Hillary Clinton. But here's the other piece here, and I'm going to go to my panel in just a second. Of course, there's a number of people who have jumped into the race so far. But remember, the Democrat National Committee also changed their rules. And that is Bernie Sanders is going to have to sign documentation saying he is a Democrat. I'm going to start with you first, Julian. And that is, there are a lot of people. First of all, Senator Sanders had significant support. There were a lot of people who were angry, saying, wait a minute, how are you telling the Democratic Party what to do when you're not even a Democrat? So you have that. But also, he had some black support in 2016, but he really ignored black folks in a significant way, did not really focus on African Americans until after Iowa and New Hampshire, and he was really behind and got obliterated by Clinton in those southern states because he did not have an established black outreach plan for African Americans. Your thoughts on him getting into this race?
You know, Leah Daughtry, who was the manager of the 2016, also the 2008 Democratic conventions, has really talked a lot about the fact that the man is not a Democrat. He didn't follow Democratic Party rules. He just kind of parachuted in there, took advantage of the opportunity, you know, some of Hillary's weaknesses, amassed a lot of delegates, okay, but you are not a Democrat. So, yes, the Democratic Party has done the right thing by saying, if you want our nomination, you're going to have to be a Democrat. Stop playing this footsie immigration, independent stuff. The other thing about it is he really, although he has had great black support, Gus Newport, who used to be the mayor of Berkeley back in the day, Danny Glover, my homeboy, friend and colleague, folks like that, Cornel West, they supported him, but these are folks who are 30,000 feet up. They're not on the in the grassroots in terms of organizing. And so from that perspective, their endorsements meant something, but it did not translate into street heat. People liked his ideas and had antipathy for Hillary, but with the new crop of candidates, Kamala, Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar, the shine is off him. He's not, and last time it was novelty campaign. This time it's like, okay, old boy, sit down. That's what I'm saying. I know that's a little ageist, but I just really think he needs to sit down.
But here's the piece. Here's the piece you have here. Malik, Democrats absolutely want to beat Donald Trump. And they're asking the question, who's the best person who can? In 2016, it was three candidates. Hillary Clinton, Senator Bernie Sanders, and Martin O'Malley. And really he didn't. Jim Webb was in, but really, it was just two. Yeah. This time, you're literally going to have, right now you have 10. You may have as many as 15. Mm-hmm. Democrats are preparing for as many as 20 candidates. This is a different ball game because not only this, the key, which I think works in Bernie Sanders' favor, you're not going to need 51% to win.
Yes.
You could very well see somebody winning a caucus or a primary with 28 or 30% of the vote. Your thoughts about Senator Sanders jumping into the race?
Absolutely. I actually think that Bernie still has a chance. If you look at the platform that the Democratic Party has taken since 2016, they pretty much have, well, I won't say pretty much, they have followed in some ways, many ways, the Bernie Sanders playbook as far as just the things that, well, you can call it progressivism or socialism or whatever you want to call it, but the party itself has actually taken that left tilt. And Bernie, I think Bernie in many ways is responsible for that. To your point about the number of people in the campaign, I think it's awesome. I think it's great. Just like last time around, I think we had about 15 or so candidates. Whittle it down, Donald Trump ended up becoming the candidate, the nominee. I think that same thing happening on the Democratic side is very good. For people like me who was a Democrat in 2016, I knew that Hillary Clinton was not an option. So I did see someone like Bernie coming along. He really did excite a lot of people who had decided that they would under no circumstance support Hillary Clinton. I think you're going to have some of those same people now still gunning for Bernie, but when you have all of the people that you said, I think we just heard something about Joe Biden is still maybe considering entering the race. I think it's going to be interesting. But a point about Kamala Harris is that I think what I heard on the way here is that within 4 hours, Bernie Sanders raised more money than Kamala Harris did in her first, 24 or 48 hours. So although people are kind of dismissing Bernie, I wouldn't hold him out. I wouldn't dismiss him so easily.
Look, here's the deal, Cleo. Senator Bernie Sanders, out of all the candidates who are running, he begins with a national donor base.
$14 million.
It's new, and it's new and fresh. But here's the deal. What I also understand, Cleo, that it's always not about money. I go back to Senator Phil Gramm when he ran for president, spent a ton of money, and I think he got one delegate. John Connally, who was governor of Texas.
Right.
Governor of Texas. Tons of money, didn't get much. Governor Jeb Bush in 2016, same thing.
Yep.
The difference this time around is that the sheer number of candidates and the map is different. It's no longer Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina. Early voting in California will have started before the folks vote in Iowa, Cleo. And so we're looking at a totally different landscape in 2020 than we did in 2016. Cleo, go ahead.
I was going to mention before you said it or you implied it, that I don't care how much money Bernie Sanders raised, he's seen as a hippie that's kind of over the hill. I agree with Dr. Malveaux in terms of the shine being off of him, but I don't think his goal is to be president. I think his goal is to do what he kind of did when Hillary ran, was being influenced, to be a so-called progressive force in the context of running for presidency. And the people that will win will be able to say, or somebody will conclude that Bernie was an influence in terms of wages, etc. I don't believe he plans on being president, and I'm also not surprised at all he raised so much money. I mean, he is a white man in the United States of America. So I mean, they tend to.
But Kamala raised a lot of money within 48 hours. So
Yeah,
but not as much.
But she wasn't. She's not Bernie.
My point was, let me finish my point real quick, because I'm really literally milliseconds from being finished. Is that I understand that Kamala raised so much money, but you also make the point, Malik, that not as much money as Bernie did, and that's my point. And because he has a certain level of optical privilege and initial impulse privilege, but when the dust clears, I don't think he has a chance.
You know, it's really interesting that Biden is, I mean, I think he's going to get in, and I think that Biden can raise and outdo anything that Bernie can do. Yep. And the question really becomes for Democrats, frankly, who can beat 45? And as we parse through this, a white man is likely to be the one. I mean, I hate to say that. I'd love for, you know, a woman or a person of color, a black person really, to be the nominee. But I think that, you know, given the demographics and the resistance to demographic shifts, that Biden is one who can trump Bernie in a heartbeat.
No. Here's. Let me say this here, and this is and this really is, and I understand your point, but the fact of the matter is this here: age is going to be a factor. Oh, yeah. Joe Biden, 76. Bernie Sanders, 77. Running a national campaign, traveling around the country. Yes, Donald Trump is obviously 72, who's running. But the real thing here, though, is that when you run for president, it reveals something else about you that a statewide campaign does not. It's a different animal. 2016. Many people felt the top two candidates who were going to emerge, the top three candidates were going to be Governor Jeb Bush, Governor Tim Pawlenty, Governor Scott Walker. The first two people to drop out was Tim Pawlenty and Scott Walker. And so what you're looking at here is going to be different constituencies. Amy Klobuchar, Senator Kamala Harris, Senator Cory Booker,
Elizabeth Warren.
Will Senator Sherrod Brown get in the race? Senator Elizabeth Warren. You have the mayor, I forgot his name right now, of Notre Dame, the governor of Washington State. You got a lot of different people who are running. And so the question then becomes, what kind of campaign do you put together? How do you connect? Can Joe Biden explain his support for the 1994 crime bill that he wrote? Can he explain his close ties with the financial sector in Wall Street and the credit card companies, being the senator from Delaware? And so it's so many different things. And the beauty of running, you got to prove it. Nobody's going to hand this to you. You're going to have to run, and you got to prove it. And so we'll see what happens. It's going to be fascinating. I do believe, though, that I think 4 more candidates are going to jump in. I still believe only 14 to 15 are going to run. I'll be shocked if it gets to 20. But what then happens if Beto O'Rourke runs? And so it's a whole lot of stuff. Guess what? We got about 15 months to talk about all of that. And so right now, we're going to move on to our next story, and that is being here in New York City. How many times have we done stories talking about black women who've either been fired or run off from their jobs because of their hair? On this show, we have covered women who are in the military. We've covered women in corporate America, women who are journalists, all of these issues when it comes to their hair. Well, in New York City, they are dealing with this, and that is the New York City Commission on Human Rights will issue new guidelines this week saying that the targeting of people based upon their hair or hairstyle at work, school, or in public places will now be considered racial discrimination. The commission will be able to levy fines up to $250,000 on organizations that do discriminate on the basis of hair. This story was broken by the New York Times, and here was a quote from the head of the commission, Carmelin Malalis. There's nothing keeping us from calling out these policies prohibiting natural hair or hairstyles most closely associated with Black people. They're based on racist standards of appearance, racist stereotypes that say Black hairstyles are unprofessional or improper. The commission has put out this poster to announce the new rules. Hair is part of you. Race discrimination based on hair is illegal. And the phone number to call in problems is 718-722-3131, 718-722-3131. Julian, I'll start with you. Although we focused on, obviously, how this has impacted Black women, I think back to the brother who was a wrestler, who the referee said, hey, you don't cut your hair, you can't wrestle. This really is a race-based situation. I remember 3 years ago, a Black woman suing the Veteran Affairs Department. She applied for a job in Virginia, impeccable credentials, but the committee decided who to hire, said, we don't really like her cornrows.
Yeah, cornrows, dreadlocks, natural hair, wild natural hair, all these things have been, their biases against those things. I commend the New York Commission for the rule, but the fact is that, implicit bias doesn't always show up. No one is going to look at you and say, Cleo, I don't like your dreads. So enforcement is going to be very challenging. And basically, there is implicit pressure placed on folks to conform. I'll tell you, years ago, when I was trying to be an anchor person, anyway, a network executive actually said to me, can you grow your hair out or would you wear a wig? And I said, well, hair growth is a human function. So yes, I could grow my hair out, but I kind of like it the way it is. And obviously, I didn't get the return interview. Might have had something to do with my attitude too, but
probably.
But in any case, I mean, it was bold that the man would say that, but most times it's not said. People are you basically asked. And there's so many people for so few jobs. We've seen Marriott hotels. In some cases, we've seen academic institutions. We've seen all kinds of institutions. And basically, I commend them for the rule, but I'm not so sure how much of a difference it's going to make unless some melanin-deficient human being is ignorant enough to actually verbalize what we know is going on.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Malvo on this one. The enforcement will be challenging. I remember years ago when I had locks. The micro
You had locks?
that when this Black Republican had locks.
You mean when you were locked up? Which one do you mean?
Okay, we need some pictures. We need pictures.
Proof, right? Not Photoshop.
But I was working at that time. I was working the hospitality issue, and my hair became an issue. And in fact, it was one of the reasons why I ended up cutting my hair. So this definitely is not just an issue that affects Black women. This is something that Black men have to deal with as well. And I think we have come, and I do know that we've come a long way as far as just organizations, companies accepting this. But one of the things that when I hear stuff like this, it reminds me of the conversations that a lot of people have about naming their kids having too ethnic of a name. And so you look at the hiring managers, this is one of those situations where, you look at hiring managers, who are the people who are making these sort of decisions? Who are the people who are looking at resumes and saying, well, that name sounds a bit too Black, so let me throw that, name in the garbage or toss it to the side. I've had conversations with people, Black people who are in, HR, and they say that these are the things that people look at, or they've been in rooms where people have tossed aside resumes or applications simply because the sound of the name. So this is just the thing
it's
with the hair.
White supremacy.
It's just another extension of that.
It's just white supremacy.
Cleo?
Just call it what it is.
Cleo?
Well, I think aesthetics matter. And I think it's great that brothers and sisters get to have their hair and that young people get to see Black people wearing natural hair and them not be self-conscious about it in terms of the adults that they're watching. So on the surface, it's a great thing. We'll see how enforcement goes, but this is good, the liberation of Black hair, because it's been enslaved, and particularly with this straight weave syndrome that's going on that I won't go any further with because I might get something thrown at me. But
I got some right here.
But in theory, and hopefully in practice, this is a great thing, the liberation of Black hair. Maybe other people will borrow New York's precedent, and this is a good thing.
Well,
I think Black children get to see this. It's good.
It's symbolic, but it's not necessarily substantive.
Well, bottom
Aesthetics
line is
matter,
just
though.
here. But here's the deal, okay? Anybody out there, if you got any issues with that, look, the opportunity to actually file the complaint, it is going to this commission is different than actually going through a legal proceeding. And so, look, whatever is done that helps, I'm down for it. Gotta take a break. We'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered in just a moment. Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. All right, folks, here's a word from one of our partners, the International Pastors and Leadership Conference, where thousands of entrepreneurs, leaders unite from all across the globe on April 25th through 27th in Tampa, Florida. Over the span of 3 days, you will glean deep insights on how to catalyze the greatest impact in your enterprise at this highly anticipated leadership conference. Now, whether you're a CEO or an attorney, get ready to elevate your effort to impact people, processes, and workflow, investments, marketing and advertising, communication, and more. The International Pastors and Leadership Conference will equip you to make a positive impact in today's cross-generational environment. Bishop T.D. Jakes, of course, the founder and visionary of the International Pastors and Leadership Conference, will lead this year's leadership conference. Joining him is a phenomenal team of thought leaders, speakers, and entrepreneurs who are called to change the world. Folks, you should be there. It's taking place at the Tampa Convention Center, again, April 25th through the 27th. It's inspired by Bishop T.D. Jakes' New York Times bestselling book, Soar, Build Your Vision from the Ground Up. The International Pastor and Leadership Conference will expand upon leadership and entrepreneurship strategies, among other themes. And now here's some of the speakers: Bishop T.D. Jakes, Corey Anthony, Pastor Teray Roberts, Pastor Craig Groeschel, Robert Brown, Bishop Dr. Pat McKinstry, Cynthia Marshall, Bishop Walter Thomas, Brett Fisher, Dr. Anita Phillips, Pastor Miles McPherson, Bishop Noel Jones, Reverend Tony Lee, Dr. Antipas Harris, Marquise Bone. Here's how you can register. Go online at pastorsandleaders.org, pastorsandleaders.org, or text PL now to 28950. Again, text PL now to 28950. You can also call 1-800-BISHOP-2. That's 1-800-BISHOP-2. Again, Bishop T.D. Jakes, the International Pastors and Leadership Conference, taking place in Tampa, April 25th through 27th. We certainly appreciate Bishop T.D. Jakes putting his money where his mouth is and being one of the partners right here for Roland Martin Unfiltered. All right, folks, let's talk about the story out of Miami. You might remember us covering this story. A group of black kids involved in a housing protest. They were riding their bikes downtown Miami. White woman gets all mad, upset, jumps out her car, accosts the student. She says one of them drove a bike across her foot. Well, then her crazy white man gets out his car, waving his gun. He gets arrested. Well, guess what? That guy, Mark Bartlett, has had additional charges slapped on him and will face a longer sentence if convicted. The state has classified his actions as a hate crime under Florida law. Now, his lawyers say the additional charges are politically motivated. Attorney Marwin Porter of the Cochran firm has filed a civil rights lawsuit against Bartlett on behalf of at least 4 of the teens. He told the Miami Herald, quote, "Based on what is readily apparent by the video, Mr. Bartlett intended to intimidate these children by his words and with a weapon. That type of conduct cannot be tolerated." Malik, is real simple. If it kept his ass in his car and not got out waving his gun, he wouldn't be in trouble.
Not at all. And I have no sympathy for him. You know, I'm glad to know that cases like this, you know, we're not just covering it, that these cases are being adjudicated and people are being brought to, charges are actually being brought against the people who do these sort of things. I mean, it's unacceptable. I'm hoping that something in there regarding maybe some sort of child endangerment or something, you know, I don't know, but hopefully those are some of the charges. And then people can look at instances like what we're talking about in Miami. Maybe it'll give them second thought when doing it, when talking about something like that for themselves.
You know, the real thing here, Roland,
Julian, these cases need to be adjudicated.
Absolutely. But even more than that, you know, the perception of black children as dangerous is what's really frightening here. We've seen a police officer I believe that was I forgot where it was, maybe it was in Florida, grab a young sister by her braids and drag her. We saw a 12-year-old Tamir Rice being killed.
Yep.
The perception of black children as being other. If a white person saw a bunch of white kids playing with their bikes, they probably smile and say, oh, isn't that cute? But when it's black kids, suddenly it's dangerous, and some fool gets out of his car with his gun, which is a whole other story. So no, it not only needs to be adjudicated, but we need to really reclaim the beauty of black childhood and talk about what it means to be a child and what the beauty and gift of that is and how our children have systematically not had that.
It's ironic that anybody can see these depictions in video and call the black children violent.
Yeah.
What's going on is these white people are crazy. They got sociopathic and psychopathic challenges, and they need to leave our kids alone. They're the one with the problem. They were just riding the bicycle. So I want to challenge that narrative. And I understand what Dr. Malvo was saying, because I know it's true that people claim they see black children as dangerous. But there's a psychological piece here. White folks in this age, many of them, see black people as a threat.
Yes.
A biological threat, a geographical, an ethnographic threat. And part of what's going on here is resentment toward the concept of them being outnumbered, outpowered, outbalanced, and they're taking out on innocent babies because they're afraid of some of the adults unless they have a gun.
But it's like, take it out on us, Cleo. You know, I want somebody to come step to me. Although with my advanced age, I'm not supposed to be fighting anymore. But in any case, I want somebody to don't step to our children. These are children. They're babies. They're innocent.
Right.
They don't deserve that. That's what is so frustrating about this.
They're not step to them because of the logical things that you're saying, Malvo. They're going to step to them and do what they have been doing because we live in an anti-black society where there has not been effective intervention.
And can we just remember
now, speaking of who needs to be stepped to, this fool in Alabama.
Oh, please.
The editor and publisher of a small-town Alabama newspaper thought the world said needs the KKK even more so. Y'all check this out.
Yep.
This is what was written. Time for the Ku Klux Klan to night ride again. Democrats in the Republican Party and Democrats are plotting to raise taxes in Alabama. They do not understand how to eliminate expenses when money is needed in other areas. This socialist communist ideology sounds good to the ignorant, the uneducated, and the simple-minded people. People who do not understand the Constitution do not like to be responsible. Slave, just freed after the Civil War, were not stupid. At times, they borrowed their former master's robes and horses and rode through the night to frighten some evil doer. Sometimes they had to kill one or two of them, but so what? This is the same. So what used when Democrats got us into World War I and World War II. Then they got us fighting in Korea. Next, when the industrial Northeast wanted more money, it got us in the Vietnam War and now into the Middle East War. If you haven't noticed, they did away with the draft so their sons would not have to go into battle. Seems like the plan will be welcome to raid the gated communities up there. They call them compounds now. Truly, they are the ruling class. Now, guys, you didn't give me this guy's name in here. But anyway, Cleo, first of all, anytime we see crazy stories, it's either coming from Florida, Texas, or Alabama.
And not Mississippi.
Well, we get Mississippi in there, too. Come on now, Miller.
Mississippi, goddamn, okay. I mean, there's some stuff that occurs in Mississippi.
But for this fool to say we need the KKK to ride in D.C., clean up D.C.,
I mean,
Cleo, go ahead.
Roland, the man's name is Goodloe Sutton, just for the record. Goodloe Sutton, and newspaper is a Democrat-reporter newspaper in Linden. So he needs to be called out. Goodloe Sutton.
He likely will be called out, but just like Steve. What was Steve's name who got censored with the Congress? Steve something?
Oh, yeah, King.
These people are just taking every opportunity they can in the age of Trump to say what they want to say, and we're going to hear more. And my concern is that when we go off on these people and try to silence them, that we're silencing a phenomenon that we need to actually address because they're not going anywhere. They're here, and they're actually saying they exist, and now we can't deny it anymore. Like I've said before, which pisses some people off in terms of Trump, he's a gift that keeps on giving in terms of black people being in a coma about what's really going on in this country, and now we have to face it because it's not possible to deny.
Can I just say...
Let me real quickly, Malik, just because... If we look at Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921, there was a newspaper who actually had a headline, Roland, that said, "To lynch a Negro tonight." So Dick Roland, who simply bumped up against what was the girl's name? Sarah Page. It was a bump. It was a jostle.
Yeah, I know.
They decided the newspaper was active in advocating for this man's lynching. So this guy comes out of a long line of advocacy, pro-white journalism, and we can't forget about that.
Yeah, well, I don't think...
Malik, go ahead. Malik, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think this has anything to do with Donald Trump. This guy was who he was before there was a Donald Trump. He's a racist, and let's just be clear.
But how many times have we seen these kind of?
But we're talking about this guy and the things that he said. I don't know if any parallel to calling for the KKK and the problem that he has. I mean, he has his own version of history here.
The
KKK did not bring law and order. The KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, they were racist. They killed black people. They didn't. What he's suggesting that the KKK should come to Washington and bring some sort of order to Washington is he must be talking about death, because those are the things that the KKK did.
But don't deny that Donald Trump said.
One second. I will correct you, Malik, when you say the KKK did not bring law and order. Actually, they did, because individuals who were sheriffs and police chiefs and governors and mayors and city council members and CEOs were KKK members. And so we know that to be absolute fact. All right, folks, got to go to a break. We come back. We're going to talk about the American worker and what's really happening when it comes to black wages. That's next on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
The white man's happiness cannot be purchased by the black man's misery. Abolitionist and autobiographer Frederick Douglass.
All right, folks, HBCU Giving Day. Our school is Bishop State Community College, founded in 1927, located in Mobile, Alabama. If you want to support Bishop State Community College, please go to bishop.edu. That's bishop.edu. Okay, folks, a lot of us out there want to be healthier in 2009. We want to change how we look. We want to live healthier. We want to lose weight. We want to have more energy. And so, look, I'm just like you. For me, it's all about improving my golf game, trying to get my handicap from 6.7 down to a 2, which means improving core, also having greater flexibility. So one of the things that I did was begin the year with the Herbs Full Body Cleanse. Lost about 18 pounds doing so. And so now it's about maintenance, about continuing to be on that path to better living, healthier living, and feeling a lot better. And so the D-Herb Cleanse allows for you to be able to do that. Not only go through the cleanse, but also go through a regimen of maintaining your weight loss goals after you've gone through the full body cleanse. If you want to do that, what you should do is go to dherbs.com, or you can call 1-866-4DHERBS, 1-866-4DHERBS. Use the promo code Roland. The promo code is Roland. Now, of course, what the cleanses does, it allows you to clean out your system, if you will, removing a lot of those processed foods, toxic foods, getting you drinking more water, eating raw fruits and raw vegetables and nuts and things along those lines to, in essence, detox your body. And so if you want to try that, again, go to dherbs.com, use the promo code Roland, or call 1-866-4DHERBS, 1-866-4DHERBS. Don't forget to use the promo code Roland. And we certainly appreciate them being one of our partners here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. Okay, folks, right now we're going to talk about a new series that we're launching, a new segment called The American Worker. What we have seen over the last number of years, and we've talked about it on this show, the attacks on unions, but also we have now seen, based upon Lee Saunders of AFS-CME, been in our show last week talking about the increase, the rebound of unions as well. But we're still seeing job losses. We're still seeing automation. We're seeing wages, how all that impacts the American worker, especially African Americans. And that was a story that actually caught my attention over the weekend, where the Brookings Institute had a particular piece that dealt with the issue of wages and dealing with racial discrimination and how they impact us. This new report also, so I saw that particular piece. And then we have this report from the Hamilton Project. And so we have right now one of the authors of the Hamilton Project, Bradley Hardy, is a PhD economist from American University. So we certainly want to thank Dr. Hardy for being with us. And so we talk about how is the issue of racial discrimination, Doc, impact where you live, the kind of jobs that are available, and what that particular pay is.
Yeah, so Roland, great to be with you. And, you know, one of the things that we looked at in this study is that it turns out to matter quite a bit where you're growing up, where you're born. And this actually kind of weaves nicely into your last segment that local policymakers have a lot to do with how they fund the education system, how they fund the workforce system, whether and how they push for minimum wage hikes. And so Black workers are out there working quite hard, just like other Americans. And in many instances, they are fighting against a legacy of public policies that were formed to be quite harmful.
As we look at that, we talk about where jobs go. I mean, look, we also understand that you have a lot of companies who are desiring to go to right-to-work states where you don't have strong unions as well. That also is impacting those high-wage jobs and where they're going. You also saw what just happened with Amazon, where they pulled out of New York City because of the pressure that they were getting, because people were saying, hey, are you going to pay a livable wage? And also, why should taxpayers be forking over $3 billion in incentives to get a company that is the most profitable country, the biggest company in the country, and Jeff Bezos, the owner, is the richest man in the world. They were saying, why do you need $3 billion in tax breaks to move into an area?
Sure. No, I think it's a great point. The flip side of the coin, though, is that many people have railed against New York State as being expensive, having progressive policies. One other way to view this is that they were really on the cusp of closing this deal. Think what you may about the intricacies. And so I think it actually does blow a hole in the notion that states with higher minimum wages, some progressive economic policies can't attract high quality employers. I think that many of the drivers are going to be skilled workforce populations to draw upon. Amazon can't do what it wants to do if it doesn't have a great battery of high quality workers to draw upon. So, I think your point stands. I think businesses are going to do what they do. They're going to maximize profits, right? No doubt about that. And at the same time, I think that this just does require policymakers to continue to yes, be thoughtful about those costs that those firms incur, but you got to listen to the will of the people. And I think that some of those concerns might have to do with whether or not incumbent residents can benefit from the jobs that are coming in as well.
So why do you call this a Hamilton Project?
So, well, I can't take credit for that. But the broader idea of Hamilton, and Jay Shambaugh is doing a great job at Brookings through Hamilton. But the idea is to think about economic growth policies that really do kind of have the best interest of the country in mind. That's how I've sort of taken the initiative. And the project over the years has tended to bring together economists and other social scientists on both sides of the ideological spectrum. So it's been going for several years now within economic studies at Brookings.
So what is the most important thing we should take away from this report, especially policymakers who want to attract businesses to their area, and for the people who want to, frankly, move where available jobs are?
So, I think there's a few takeaways. First of all, we were thinking a lot about the role of history, the fact that, at the end of the day, so much of what we see in terms of the inequities you've talked about on this show, and you had a great eminent economist and Julian Malveaux on earlier, so much of this has to do with public policies having to do with segregation, redlining policies, that's had a big part in wealth transmission and these big black-white wealth gaps. But the second piece, Roland, is related to the sorts of topics you've been covering traveling the country. You talk a lot about education. Well, we have ironclad evidence, I believe, in economics now that spending on secondary education does raise student outcomes, does raise quality. It doesn't mean that's the only thing, but that was a puzzle in the social sciences. That ability to spend is then intimately related to the local area's public policies, property taxation. Are there limits on the ability to tax? What does that look like across different parts of the U.S.? And in our work, we found that there were some clear gradients that in many instances disadvantaged Black Americans. So I think a takeaway is that there's some really difficult, tough issues we face in society that are pretty clear to see, i.e. your last segment, man holding a gun, some very clear criminal justice violations. But there are also some very pernicious issues in the public policy sector, how we finance education, social welfare, housing, that have very serious consequences for Black families, by and large because we don't come to the market with the same wealth. So it's not everything, but it means quite a bit. And I just think the viewers should be educated on the notion that much of this action is happening at the state and local level, serious resources that have serious impacts on families and their economic outcomes.
And again, this is why we tell people don't just focus on what's happening in Washington, D.C., focus what's happening with city, counties, and states as well. Doc, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland.
All right. We certainly appreciate AFSCME for being the sponsor of our segment, The American Worker. All right, folks, last bit of news here on the show. Some sad news here. Los Angeles Dodgers pitching great Don Newcomb has died. He was 92 years old. The team announced this just a few moments ago. Newcomb was one of the first Black pitchers in Major League Baseball. He joined the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1949, 2 years after Jackie Robinson joined the league, winning Rookie of the Year while helping them win their National League pennant. Now, there were three of the first four African Americans in Major League Baseball were on the Dodgers: Jackie Robinson, Roy Campanella, as well as Don Newcomb. You also remember that, you might not remember, but Major League Baseball had an unwritten rule, only 3 African Americans per team. Of course, Larry Doby was the second African American who appeared in Major League Baseball. And so Don Newcomb was one of the greatest pitchers in Major League Baseball history. He won, of course, the Cy Young Award, won MVP as well, and pitched in World Series. Don Newcomb finished his 10-year Major League Baseball career as a 4-time All-Star with a 149-90 record with a 3.56 ERA. And yes, he got his start in the Negro Leagues. And so we certainly extend our thoughts and prayers to Los Angeles Dodger great Don Newcomb, dead at the age of 92. All right, folks, we are done with this show. I want to thank Julian, Malik, and Cleo for joining with us. Folks, I'm here in New York City. I was speaking on a panel at Oppenheimer Funds today, and as a part, obviously, Black History Month. We were, of course, in Atlanta on yesterday speaking to Reach Educational Solutions. I will be back in Atlanta on Friday. We have my School Choice is a Black Choice Town Hall taking place at the Ray Charles Theater from 6 to 8 p.m. If you want to attend that, what you do is go to Eventbrite. It's free registration. We'll also have daycare for parents. Go to Eventbrite. Simply type in School Choice is the Black Choice and be able to register to attend our town hall. Our discussion is about educational options for African Americans, also about Black folks who want to open, start, launch, control, own their own charter schools as well. And so we'll have that conversation in Atlanta on this Friday. And so I hope you guys please do that. Also, I want to thank all of you who watched our Chuck D interview on Friday, the interview yesterday with Auntie Congresswoman Maxine Waters as well. And coming up, we have more one-on-one interviews with Devon Franklin, Erica Alexander, Erica Ash, as well as Zalah Haneo. So we got some great great interviews coming up right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And for you to make all of this possible, we want you to join our Bring the Funk fan club. So simply go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can join our fan club using Cash App, using PayPal, using Square. All of those available opportunities for you. You can give one time, you can give monthly, all up to you. And our goal is to get more of you, of course, signing up for Roland Martin Unfiltered. That's it for me. I got to go. I'll see you guys tomorrow from Washington, D.C. Holla! You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.